goes boom, across this area, and it stops, and it hovers over this mountain ridge, and we think it's going to end. It's going to end. It's going to end, and then about a minute and a half later, it just slowly descends on the other side of the mountain. And I look at Dave. I go, "Well, who's the UFO expert now, Dave?"
History is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. It finally happened, folks, fellow conspiracy realists. After decades of rumor, speculation, so many reports of strange things in the sky, the United States Congress held a public hearing on unidentified aerial phenomenon, which literally everybody else calls UFOs. They also held a second non-public hearing, which we'll get to in a bit. This comes on the heels of a report published about 11 months ago. We discussed this in depth on a previous episode, and the world has been watching to see what, if anything, Uncle Sam would disclose in that conversation. Today, we're exploring the context of this hearing, the ramifications, what it means for the world of ufology and the world at large. We're not diving in alone. That's right. We're thrilled to welcome back today's special guest, a good friend of ours in real life, friend of the show. You've heard him called four names before. You've heard him called JKLC. But to us, this is our good friend, the documentarian, author, and artist, Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy, thank you for coming back on the show, especially because this is, safe to say, probably been kind of a busy time for you recently.
Oh, yeah, man. This is Vietnam. It's blue skies. There's no rules. It's totally insane. But I'm excited to be speaking with you guys, and I'm big fans of your show and each of what you do. So thank you.
Man, we are very excited to have you here, Jeremy. A little peek behind the curtain. We finally got on a text thread with Jeremy after, emailing back and forth for years. And all of us...
Very lively text thread.
Well, we've just been anticipating that something like this would happen, right? I think all of us.
Yeah.
And every time we anticipate something like that, we get excited because we feel like something big and breaking is going to occur. Someone is going to say something in this hearing that's going to make all of us have giant eyes and just go, it's real. The X-Files poster behind me lets you know exactly how I feel about UFOs and how badly I want to believe. Jeremy, I want to just get your initial reaction to this hearing.
To the hearing itself, yeah, sure. Look, I am an eternal optimist. I am accused of that on a daily basis, and I am guilty of that. Every day, human knowledge expands like just a little bit. And even for me, it's like in regards to UFOs, what was science fiction yesterday is now becoming like science fact. And yeah, man, UFOs, it's not a matter of belief. That's a data poor perspective. We now live in a world, our children will grow up in a world that is a data-rich environment regarding UFOs. So as the kind of eternal optimist, guilty as charged, I actually, despite the lies, obfuscation, closed door, classified briefing after the open congressional briefing, what happened yesterday is a benchmark. It is a public demanded and actually actuated moment that is historic. We haven't had congressional hearings on UFOs in over 50 years. Not only that, but like they showed some new footage and what happened was a symbol of public will. I mean, fucking UFO Twitter, man. I mean, people make a joke, nobody reads this shit. Oh, yeah, they do. Every congressman, every senator, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, and they read their comments because they're vain. So, like, here's the deal. And because it's elections coming up in a lot of places. So here's the deal, man. More than that, they're human. So we're talking about unhuman. They're human like us. So,
presumably.
Like, they represented us, man. Yesterday was huge. It was fucking huge. And it's important, and it's a symbol of public will and representative government. I couldn't be more excited.
And this is the culmination, I would say, of a very long journey. So, folks, Jeremy and our crew have been in contact for a number of years. You're quite a prolific filmmaker, and we always, I think it's what people call a good problem to have. We always end our shows together saying, shit, we gotta, we have to come back because we didn't even scratch the surface of some stuff. But for anyone who doesn't know, Jeremy has been in the investigative trenches on not just this subject, but many other related subjects for quite a long time, far before, I would argue, the quote-unquote mainstream public turned their collective attention to this. So for anyone who is maybe somehow new to your work, what got you started on this path originally, and did you ever see it leading to where we are now?
I never saw it leading. I am the least qualified person to be in the position I am making films about this shit or being on newscasts. Like I was a mixed martial athlete, man. That I started training jiu-jitsu when I was 9 and boxing and wrestling was 9 years old. I never thought, like a moment in my life before this started, I never thought I'd be involved. I was curious. I heard Bob Lazar on the radio with George Knapp like everybody else. In 1989, I was 13 years old, but I will say, this is not a joke to me. My curiosity was weaponized, man. And what I mean by that is I started fucking shooting Hellfire missiles at my brain. Like, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, the universe is vast. There's probably life everywhere, but they ain't coming here. And then hearing Bob Lazar describe with George Knapp the propulsion system, how, like, you put a bowling ball on a bed and push your fist down under the bed and the bowling ball will fall to your fist. It's different than rockets to roller skates, traditional propulsion. I thought, whoa, warping space, time. That means people could come here, people from other places. So as a kid, I just got like weaponized, man. But I was just a professional mixed martial athlete, not fighting professionally, but more fights unprofessionally. It was just,
we
just
noticed.
Like, that's all yeah.
Jeremy's got a Sakuraba shirt on, by the way.
You know what it is.
Yeah, it's a Gracie killer right there.
Saku is my number one. He doesn't win every fight, but he's always triumphant. Anyway, so I just like so to answer your question directly, no, man, I never thought I would be involved with this. I was not even a filmmaker. Got no teaching in that way. Luckily, I got a good eye, is what they say, and I was able to be perceived as trustworthy. And the way to be perceived as trustworthy is to fucking be trustworthy. And so it took me years, man. But that camera that I got for my wedding gift, that was a Canon 5D, that shot video, that was, I realized the moment I turned it on, that was my passport into the unknown. People started telling me shit that they didn't tell their own wives, their own families. I mean, they shouldn't be telling me. And so 90% of what I film and record, I can't yet put out. But like, man, that's how it started for me. It's just, I am curious too. I want to know what the truth is about these objects, these physical machines that we call UFOs and are associated with all sorts of strange phenomena that people would call like paranormal, for lack of a better term, because we don't even know what that means. It's paranormal till it's normal, right? So what are UFOs? What do they represent to humanity? Where are we sitting in this universe? What does it mean to be part of a larger ecosystem? That's what drives me. This is not something that I directly get paid for. If I make any money, it's because I make films and products and hope people like them. But really, I got a day job, man. So this for me is passion.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Jeremy. Got a day job, man. Ben,
Yeah,
I remember.
Pick out drywall and shit.
Well, no, I remember specifically feeling that way when we started making the video series of stuff they want you to know. Of like, we have a day job, we got to make these videos for this company. Ben's writing them, I'm editing them. But our like exciting thing that we did was make the stuff they don't want you to know videos. I know exactly what you mean.
Those hooked me years and years and years ago. Man, those who I say, what do they not want me to know? What don't they want me to know?
So much.
And then I was just
so
watching,
much stuff.
Yeah, this is
So,
yeah.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't. Just to get into your curiosity and your experience here, because I think you're underselling yourself a little bit when it comes to being an expert in this. Just because every time you look at it, you're learning something, right? And you're sharing it with us, with everyone. You recently went on Coast to Coast with George Knapp, and you were there with, I think Dave Foley was on the phone at one point, and you guys told a crazy story. I don't want to take away from that interview, so everybody go listen to that episode of Coast to Coast if you can. But just tell us about the experience you had with Dave Foley.
Oh, God, you go right into outing me, coming out the closet with UFOs. Oh, the UFO guy sees a UFO. No one's going to believe me.
Wait, I'm not trying to out you, dude. I loved the story.
No, Foley outed me. It was a private experience. It was so cool, but it's ironic. It's even more ironic when I explain it to you. So yeah, I went on Coast to Coast with the epic godfather George Knapp, from breaking stories from the mob to the mundane to the most extraordinary UFOs. This guy George Knapp, man, he's a national treasure. He's a global treasure, and luckily he's guided my dumbass along the whole way. Once he picked up my phone after 2 years of calling him. But anyway, so what happened? We told the story on Coast to Coast. Okay, look, I live in a non-disclosed location that was outed by a tabloid, but I live in an area that's beautiful. It's got open skies, and so have you heard of Pioneer Town specifically? It's a really cool place in the Mojave Desert. So basically, what's going on is this. I'm walking with my buddy Dave Foley. For those of you that don't know, he's from Kids in the Hall. He's a comic, an actor, just a all-around hell of a guy. But he's also, very rationally minded and skeptical, and, uses his joke of cynicism. But he was turned back on to UFOs after seeing my Bob Lazar film, Bob Lazar Area 51 and Flying Saucers. So he saw that, went on the Rogan podcast, got turned back on to UFOs, and we connected. So he became a friend. He came to the Storm Area 51 event with me, and he was like, "Oh no, I'm in. Like, can I stay in your RV?" I'm like, "Dude, I snore. Are you ready?" So he earned my respect and my trust because of how he just jumped in. So look, what I'm saying is I'm just hanging out with a friend. So he makes a joke to me. We're out walking, sun's going down, beautiful night. And he says, "Oh, Jeremy, I expected, go see the UFO expert," whatever that means. And he goes, "I thought I'd see a UFO." He's fucking with me. And I'm like, "Okay, well, very funny, Dave. You're a comedian. You should try that out for a living." It wasn't 45 seconds after he said that I said, "Dave, turn around." And he turns around, and I wasn't sure what was going on. He turns around, and look, man, people don't get this. I am not only one of the most skeptical people, because UFOs are real, but most stories aren't. But also, I have the ability to, I go deep. I monitor satellites. I monitor the International Space Station. I've got contacts, within the military to tell me if something special is flying over. Holy cow. For the first time in my life, I saw an undeniable, double verified, what we'd call a UFO, but it didn't look anything like I would imagine. It was a huge machine. And it looked to me it looked like in a comic book from the 1940s, like Rocket Man. It was crazy looking. And I've practiced this quick draw with my camera where I'm boom, and I record, and boom, like that. And I remember saying out loud, "I'm not even going to lift my camera because I'm going to miss this." I thought it was going to be a short event. Dave's eyes go as big as saucers. We're looking, and we're going back and forth with this banter, trying to dismiss it. What happens is an object descends at 45 degrees from our angle of observation at an extraordinary speed, and it is glowing and bright, and it fucking boom, and then it moves across laterally low. I mean, it was probably a couple miles from us, but that's pretty close. I feel grateful. The most impressive part to me is different than the most impressive part to Dave Foley. He said, he describes the shape as like a hamburger with a bite out the front. It was like I don't know, whatever that looks like. But it had 3 big lights, almost like it was technology. It had big lights on the front, but that wasn't interesting. What was interesting was the entire body of this craft was glowing. It was not shining light. It was glowing. And when it slipped across not the horizon, but across the valley, the area where I was, it pulsed with every time it slipped, and it was like this impossible slip. And it made me think of Kenneth Arnold when he said flying saucer. That was a misquote. They were kind of wing shaped. It was the way it moved, like skipping a stone. Every time it moved 4 times, like that. It moved it was impossible. It moved so impossibly fast, and it pulsed with this, not the 3 lights on the front, the body of it. So that struck me. The magnitude of power, the energy it took to do this. No sonic booms, no sound. And he keeps saying we reacted really strangely to that. He's hung up on that. And he's right. We did react strangely to it. And we thought it would be over. It goes boom, across this area, and it stops. And it hovers over this mountain ridge. And we think it's going to end. It's going to end. It's going to end. And then about a minute and a half later, it just slowly descends on the other side of the mountain. And I look at Dave, I go, well, who's the UFO expert now, Dave?
Oh, jeez, man. I can't imagine having that kind of experience.
I finally saw one, you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
it was so cool.
I think we all want that so badly. I've never seen one like that,
Yes.
or anything like that where I couldn't, explain. I've had plenty of times where I look up and I'm like, oh, what the heck is that? And I can tell, I can rationalize, oh, well, that's, a satellite. That's the way those lights are flashing. I know that's an aircraft that was built by man. I just don't know what it is or why it is there.
One thing that we see now is I would say a paradigm shift in the world of UFO reporting. It's being destigmatized to a great degree. And one thing that you have excelled at in the course of your investigations is you've been able to contact people or be contacted by people who ordinarily, like you said, wouldn't tell anyone about this because of that stigma. So I'm curious, and I think a lot of people are curious about the process that you have, the process that you found yourself engaging in to have this exclusive access to people, this rapport with people. I think it goes back to, and then perhaps most importantly, I do want to highlight this for anyone who doesn't know. One of the things that happened with Congress and with branches of the military specifically is that Jeremy got a hold of some footage that they would rather the public not know about. So, like, what's the process? Is that weird? Have you ever felt in physical danger? I meant to ask one question. That was like 20, but
Yeah, stigma, process, and what is it like releasing this stuff, and do you feel in danger? So you got to remember
I'm on
those
it.
4.
Yeah, okay.
So let's just
Yes.
stigma. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, let's start with that, but let's get to the other 3. So, yeah, man, look, secrecy, and actually, Representative Carson said this when he was setting up these, public, open UFO congressional hearings, as he said, secrecy can serve as an obstacle to solving the UFO mystery. Well, look, man, overclassification and secrecy, can really cause our minds to fill in those blanks. And he also said that this hearing is about examining steps that the Pentagon can take to reduce stigma. I mean, this is him saying why he put the hearings together. So stigma and secrecy can cause real problems when we're trying to solve any mystery. I mean, you exclude the scientific community because they're so worried. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson is so behind on this because he's so worried about keeping a public persona. They should be salivating over the evidence we have. So stigma is like, it's a cancer, man. It's a virus. So So the idea of stigma, when we were growing up, probably saying UFO, you're the crazy person talking about it, but every single person had a story, from top military brass to, a kid I met, serving chai in Rishikesh, India. Everybody had a story about UFOs that either they saw or somebody they trust saw and told them. So this idea of stigma is, it creates a dance that you have to do. And that this moves into, I think, your second question, which is the process, yes. Right? The stigma is being dissolved. And I personally am fighting really hard to dissolve it, because how can we have an honest, rational, open conversation when on one side you have what they call skeptics or debunkers, that all they're trying to do is fit the world into their worldview in the most, mental gymnastics worthy of a gold medal. I mean, they are the conspiracy theorists, because if you believe them, you have to believe something more extraordinary functionally happened than people are telling the truth and is picked up on radar. So reducing stigma is so important. How that affects my work is, look, if someone doesn't know me back years ago, it's like I'm some guy you can look up that's just kind of like an artist guy, maybe a jiu-jitsu guy that has a camera. Maybe he's even like a UFO nut, is in their mind. So imagine me calling up one of the top command within the USS Nimitz, right? The battleship, and being like, hey, my name is Jeremy Corbell. I'm, kind of like a reporter. I make some films, and you don't know me, and nobody knows I'm calling you, but somebody really important told me to call you. Can we talk for a second? I mean, the stigma, bam, was about UFOs. That can be a real problem. However, if people are comfortable, all of a sudden, man, do they want to tell this story? Because people don't listen. So now, luckily, I've carved out, again, in order to be trustworthy in people's minds, the best way to do that is to actually be fucking trustworthy. And I have proven myself not by what I have reported, obtained, and released, but by what I haven't reported or released. So people have started to trust me. So now my job is becoming easier when it comes to the stigma thing. Every single day, my email is like a Vegas slot machine at midnight. I just boom, 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 coming in reports from military to, by the way, 90% civilian, because we capture UFOs more than anybody. So that's the process of earning trust. Once you've earned trust in one way, which for me started really with George Knapp. It took me 2 years to get the guy to call me back. And that's a funny story if you want to hear it and have time, but whatever. Called me back. And then from there, he's guided me as a mentor. I mean, straight up. And I'm so grateful for that. And I can name drop him sometimes. That really helps. But now, because with witnesses, it's difficult. He's a trusted journalist. But now, people are coming directly to me. People from within our intelligence communities, analysts, military people at high rank, and just beginning in our military process. And they are, at their own peril and risk, oftentimes, supplying me with footage and documentation of one of the greatest mysteries that we have, which is the UFO mystery. So that's the process, and that's stigma.
Did you ever feel that you were maybe in physical danger, or did anybody exercise intimidation tactics or something? That's something a lot of our audience is curious about.
Well, I'm clumsy, so I'm always worried about physical danger. And my wife is my alien overlord boss and is threatening me constantly for good reason, because I should be. Other than that, no, man, I have always been assisted, never resisted when it comes to the military process. Like, people want, there's numerous people that want this information public too. I just want to make sure I'm on the right side of the law. I'm dealing with sensitive information. If I get footage, that was filmed by an agency in an active war zone that might show capability on our side, or even optics capability, I need to make sure. I don't want to hurt. I have no reason to try to harm the United States and what they're doing in the Department of Defense. So I've tried to be as transparent as possible without revealing sources to the mechanisms of government that would like to know about this. I actually send a lot of what I get. Well, that sounded weird. I don't just send it. I inform our Department of Defense of things that I'm going to release once it's for sure going to be released. And I make sure that there's nothing I don't know about that. And usually they're grateful. They're great, ruffle some feathers because why do I have it and they don't? But like, that's because I should be obsolete, because the process should be better for people. And they understand that. I understand that. And I'm fighting to try to get an immunity process set up. So when George and I put stuff out, it doesn't hurt national security and there's immunity for people because they can go on a hunt, but I'm pretty good at covering my tracks. So that's, I've never been threatened. Not a day in my life. Not by military government people. I mean, by individuals every day. People are crazy. What can you do? Right? But not by our military. To answer your question directly, no, I've never felt any kind. They did an investigation into my sources and George's sources, and I get that. I would do the same thing. But no, never a threat. Never once.
That's awesome. That's really heartening, I think.
So, yeah, congratulations. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. It does seem dangerous. I think just from this end, you talked about high-ranking officers, low-ranking officers who are stationed for the Navy on, let's say, a destroyer like the Russell, the Nimitz, people who are actually filming footage through whatever mechanism they're using, on one of those destroyers or on one of those battleships. I mean, this is military personnel. I think that just over the conversations that we've had on the show over the past couple of years, it has really been that has been the difference. Military personnel shot footage that we can now see.
I don't think people know this. So this is like in the minutia, but why did the Pentagon confirm the first 3 videos and all I think it was 6 photos that George and I released, and then on that last one, it was like the least impressive visually, but it's like dark and there's like these little lights over it, which is, by the way, a really important piece of footage, and I'll explain why. Why did the Pentagon say we can't comment? That was what they said in the official FOIAs and when people emailed. Why on that one, after that huge run of releasing stuff where they're like, yep, that's real, yep, that's real? I'll tell you why. I made sure they were in a position to know that that it was true before I publicly released them with all the other footage. There was a policy shift. There was a reaction. The moment George Knapp and I kind of were on a roll with these, and I will tell you, you're going to have to take my word for it, but I think there is documentation of it. They changed policy when they saw what was going on with the content, the corroborative video evidence that we released, me and George. And now, I don't even want to say it, man, but any UAP footage is designated, all caps, secret, non-share, even with allies. So they tried to, boom, put a stop to the leaks at that moment. And the word I can't comment on that last piece, which is deck footage from the USS Omaha. So that's why that happened. That's what's in place now. What they did not anticipate, that tenfolded people reaching out to me. It tenfolded it.
I think it's interesting being able to get in on something on the ground floor that, maybe when you get in on it, you don't even know it's the ground floor yet. It's just something that you're interested in, and it doesn't really even exist in a way that ultimately will. I think about that in terms of podcasting. We were very lucky that we had a podcast when there were like 10 podcasts. So it's not the best comparison, but you've been asking these questions and dealing with that stigma for years. I mean, we have too, but you very specifically around this discipline, these types of questions. How does it feel is it a kind of vindication, and how does it empower you to move forward, to have a member of Congress more or less apologize and say, hey, this stigma has essentially, created an environment where pilots don't want to report things that could actually be helpful and valuable, because at the end of the day, the justification is all about national security. That's what this is all wrapped up in. It's not necessarily about, wanting to believe in maybe the ways that we look at it. It's all wrapped up in this idea of how do we protect our country, and that's the only way they can really kind of, package it in a way that they can stomach. But to say that, openly, a member of government to say this was a real thing, this stigma, and it potentially caused how God knows how many legitimate reports to go unreported. How do you feel about that? How does it feel to have been on the ground floor of that, asking these questions, and now it's almost like the doors are wide open?
I mean, I can promise you that everything I've said I've done in this field and everything else I've done in life, I've said it, I've done it. And I'm telling you, I'm going to kick that door open wider than you can imagine. I mean, I got footage I'm gonna release. I just need to make sure people don't get in trouble. But your question was like vindication, like how do you feel?
Yeah, kind of. I just mean, like, how do you feel even like for these folks that maybe did take the plunge and report these things? Some of the footage, from pilots that have, for everyone, yeah.
So vindication is when somebody feels that people didn't believe them and they were telling the truth, and then all of a sudden people realized they were telling the truth. So the only people that feel vindication are people that are insecure about what other people think about what they're saying. I think it's great that the public is catching up, that they've been 4 cents short of a nickel when it comes to UFOs, and that it wasn't even their own fault, man. It's because they're all the stigma and kind of what people have been told they're supposed to understand and believe about UFOs. It literally wasn't the fault of public knowledge that it was like this gap of reality and what was believed or thought about. So vindication itself, I think it's a waste of time, man. I think I'm too busy moving forward. I'm very happy for people that feel vindicated because they needed that. I think the pilots, I think it is a big deal for, because it was actually functional vindication. And that's a different thing. It was functional vindication. So some pilots, they could have their wings taken, their entire career, their dreams, their hopes, their desires for the future gone because people think they're not wrapped so tight because they report they saw something. But now with all the radar and collective accumulative AI technology that links all the radars together with incredible systems such as the Spy-1 that can reach 80,000 feet, it's like all of a sudden vindication for those people, those American heroes that some of them engaged UFOs, many of them, and this is something Congress lied about, many of them, we have fired upon these unidentifieds. So for these people, I am so happy for them. For me personally, all I care about is that my puppy loves me, my wife loves me, and my family doesn't think I'm too out of this world. You know what I mean? When it comes to my passion about this stuff.
And I guess when I say kick the door open, I'm specifically referring to people that maybe would have not reported seeing these things. People with credibility. That's what I'm talking about.
That's a huge deal. So let's address that for just 30 seconds here. What we're seeing now is permission being given, not yet the process to do it, but the permission being given to say, hey, okay, I had a near miss. Hey, I saw this thing. Hey, should I fire on this? What's going on? Should we communicate? Should I send out a signal? What's going on? So what you said, Noel, is really important. We have now got to the point where we're destigmatizing it just 1 degree. It was 104 degrees. Now it's 100 and maybe 2 degrees. We're bringing down the temperature so people can report this shit, right? And that is so important, not just for national security, but because people hold these secrets. And that is, to hold a secret like that is, it impairs your health.
Oh, yeah. Agreed, 100%. And that's something, what's really standing out to me in this conversation, and as I'm just keeping some notes here, is I think it is incredibly important, I would even say mission critical, for you and George Knapp to be actively constructing a process like this, right? That first make sure that it's not like publication is not endangering anyone, and then secondly that anonymity is possible. And I want to thank you for that. We have a lot of veterans in the audience today, and it is a statistical certitude, dude, that several of them have probably seen some things and they haven't felt like they would be able to report it without there being some sort of possible consequence. Like you said, functional validation. People's careers are on the line, and it's not easy to become a pilot, right? I mean, that's just true. Yeah.
Well, and it's not just pilots. And look, you said two things. You said the national security, but then anonymity. But here's the deal: fuck anonymity. A lot of these people, their active duty right now, have actually gone on record with me, recorded, and they trust me, and I can release that after they're out. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we can put that they're okay talking about it, but they're just not the repercussions could be horrible.
Immunity,
so I want to make sure there's an immunity there, so they can no anonymity. They want to tell you what they saw, even if it's closed door briefings with Congress and not like on the news or something with me. That's what I'm fighting for, is immunity for people to actually come forward because they want to, like at the USS Russell and the whole swamp gas, I don't know the word they use, like a fake aperture thing, all the idiot debunkers, like they don't know what I know. They don't know what they know. And that was a sideshow swamp gas thing. So here's the deal. Like I have witnesses from that event. Now they're active. I've documented with them. I want to be able to put that out. I want them to be able to come forward, but we need something in process.
Yeah. And that's I think a key point, and it's a game changer, and it's something that has to occur, that has to exist, right, to move this exploration further along. With that, I know we have a lot of stuff to discuss, but I would just love to get briefly your hot take, if hot it is, on the public hearing where you showed up in name, and then also maybe a little speculation about the second closed door hearing.
I mean, other than it was really amazing and important, and it was the start, it was the benchmark that I happen to know, and I'm telling you now, that there's going to be more, and that there's going to be direct witnesses who can speak with more education and clarity than people that were sent there by their bosses to protect national security, like the top brass we did have in front of Congress. We're going to have people like Commander David Fravor, people like the great Lou Elizondo, who ran ATIP. We should have Dr. James Lakatsky, who ran the only funded the $22 million UFO program with Dr. Colin Kelleher called AWSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapon System Applications Program. That then Lou Elizondo grabbed the reins like a warrior and started ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And then we go to the UAP Task Force and 3 different versions of it. But what we saw there in that briefing yesterday, besides the symbolic nature and the new UFO video, we saw that, first of all, they got a lot of catching up to do. The Congress people were exceptional. Congressman Gallagher his questions were incredibly powerful. And Representative Carson, he pushed the witnesses with his opening statement. I mean, he really set the tone. And the point was to destigmatize so reporting could be better and to earn back the American trust. And I don't know anything about politics or any of their politics. All I know is what they just said about UFOs and about secrecy and overclassification in general. So my hot take is that, yes, there were some lies, there was some obfuscation. There's just, we don't know. They were ignorant on certain things. And also those 2 guys, I would have a lot of other people up there, but it was good we did it. And they're having a closed door briefing afterwards because of classification. And notice every time that they said, we're going to have to do that in the closed door briefing after. That is because there's information that they can answer, but only under, so there's some yeses there you should have paid attention to. So, have UFOs altered our technological capabilities or methods, right, in warfare? Save that for the closed briefings. That's what he said, right? they were wrong or lying or obfuscating or not informed when they asked about like basically UFO crashes or materials. That's provable, that's verifiable, and more of that's coming out, and they were wrong or lied. So yeah, we do have, I'll say, to be very conservative, materials associated with UFOs. Someone other than me, Robert Bigelow, who was a big part of the UFO whole thing with the government, specifically said we have machinery. So machinery is like mechanisms that work together. I'll go one step further, whether you believe him or not. Bob Lazar is telling you straight exactly what happened to him. We have craft, and there's documentation that I think George Knapp and I will be exposing from Russia that clearly state that there are exploitation or reverse engineering programs. So from that hearing, those are some of the things that they said that you should pay attention to. They admitted the UFO Nimitz was a UFO event. Well, duh, we all knew that. The big hot take is this. I'm sorry, I'm ranting here. The big hot take is this. They fucked up when it came to talking about the video I released with the green pyramid-shaped triangle by angle of observation night vision footage from the USS Russell. That's cool. They fucking lied about it, but that's okay.
All right, well, let's get into it. So one of the main arguments that I've seen about that specific video footage of the green pyramids, green triangles, it would be a pyramid and not a triangle, as we discussed earlier.
It doesn't matter if it's seagulls. It doesn't matter if it's seagulls with lights strapped onto them. They're unknowns, and we should know what to do with them as our military.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't really matter, but maybe some of you have seen this, or maybe you haven't seen this, or you've heard something. So I just want to make sure, Jeremy, you comment on it, and we get that from you rather than just hearsay that people find on the internet. There is one person speaking out about this that I've seen him in the New York Post and a couple other places. An author named Mick West, and he's just put forward that he's a skeptic, and again, I think everyone should be, just as Jeremy stated, be skeptical about the stuff, but make sure you think about everything. Look at every angle. Don't just take, the skeptical stance and throw things out the window. I don't think that's what Mick is doing. Mick is just saying, I think Occam's razor is that these are planes. This is footage of planes. The reason why they look like pyramids is because of the aperture of the camera that was taking the footage, and it's night vision, so they appear that green color. And they've got flashing lights that appear to be what a plane would have, the warning lights or the standard lights.
Yeah. If I was just looking at it from outside, that would be Occam's razor on that specific event. However, you bring up kind of something that's more of a disease. It's more of a mental disease, because you have to look at the history of people's work and how their bias, how they're always continuously trying to not just analyze it, but prove the mundane, no matter how insane it is. So in general, let's talk about it generally, but let's take one specific case that this has been done to, right? So that's debunking rather than I'm a skeptic too. That's the thing. People might not appreciate how much I vet things at work that I have to do and what I do before I put anything out, because everybody wants to catch me in a mistake. If I ever made a mistake, oh man, everybody makes mistakes. I'll admit I made a mistake. It just hasn't happened yet with this. Now if that does happen, oh man, no problem. We're all human. As I told you, I'm clumsy. If I make a mistake, physically clumsy, not mentally clumsy, then no problem. I'll admit that. But let me give you a specific example of something. You're being very, nice in the way you describe this skepticism thing. There's a difference between being skeptical and having an intent to debunk with a predetermined outcome. And that's where this virus, this mental, it really is a mental illness we're seeing with people like this. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to give you a specific example. So here we go. The Tic Tac UFO case. What is Occam's razor? Is Occam's razor the most mundane explanation? Or is it kind of the most direct and obvious? I haven't looked up the definition, but I'm pretty sure it says in the dictionary Occam's razor is not the most mundane is the answer, right? So if you believe, and it's a matter of belief because we're not there, if you believe the military pilots, if you believe the radar systems, if you believe the investigation that went on for years, and actually multiple investigations from intelligence agencies, one of which George Knapp made public, if you believe that stuff, then Occam's razor says the pilots saw what they said they saw, the radars picked up what they appeared to pick up, and everything occurred on that day precisely as it has been described, that this is not pilot error, this is not radar glitches, that these were physical objects. And then there's the stuff they don't want you to know, which is that we have other optics systems that I can't confirm nor deny that I am privy to that were able to capture these same series of events with the Tic Tac UFO. But now, because you mentioned Occam's razor, and you mentioned some of the people that have this, what I would call a mental illness, right? And again, not to be mean, this is not, maybe I should choose a different word, but it's like a virus when they want to prove their worldview. If you were to believe these known debunkers, not even skeptics, here's what you would need to believe about the Tic Tac UFO case. This is a conspiracy theory. It is a mental gymnastics worthy of a gold medal. You have multiple pilots in air all testifying to having seen the same thing. Not a glare in the windshield, not a glitch on their radar, optically see the same thing. Trained fighter pilots. So now you're talking about, you'd have to believe not only one person had mental delusion, but that mental delusion was commonly shared at the exact same moment with multiple other pilots and I call them co-pilots or backseaters or weapon systems operators. So now, just follow me, to Occam's razor, these debunkers, you have to start by believing that one pilot had a massive mental delusion and that massive personal mental delusion was then shared by multiple other trained fighter pilots at the exact same time, at the exact same place, seeing the exact same thing. But let's just start beginning there. Now you have to also believe that our ground radar systems saw the mental delusion that all these pilots were sharing. Then you have to believe that our air radar systems were starting to share that mental delusion. And then the systems, the stuff they don't want you to know, that also were able to capture these Tic Tac UFO event series was sharing that delusion through its AI and pinging it to everybody else. And then you have to say everybody's bad at their job and that they didn't investigate it right and that the footage of it, I guess the mental delusion got caught up on visual as well. So just to drive this point home, Occam's fucking razor is that you shouldn't be listening to debunkers who try to impose upon you these series of absolute absurdities. I'm sorry. I'm done with it. I don't have time for this. I have time for people who are skeptical, who want to know the truth, not for people that go out their way to convince the public of a false narrative for clout and to get on TV shows. It's bullshit. And it's straight up, it's fucking bullshit. And here's the deal, man. It doesn't matter anyway. People got to make up their own minds. But that bullshit then translates over to things, what we're seeing at Congress the other day. You know, where did they get this outside analysis? But by the way, I know the people that wrote those reports. I know the people that actually dealt with defining these things as, quote, drones. I know why they define them as drones. And in fact, I have eyewitnesses. So somebody sitting as a keyboard warrior behind their keyboard, you know, doing analysis and thinking that everybody else is stupid and wrong and delusional, even the AI and the technology except them. I mean, Occam's razor says you should probably ignore them a little bit because you're filling your mind with a ton of fucking bullshit, horse shit. My advice for people is to be as open and curious and ask questions and look into stuff and hear all sides and don't take a position and defend it until you're absolutely confident, and then be willing to completely lose sight of the shore to discover new land if you find out new evidence. And I hope we all do that. And also just, be forgiving of people. People get passionate about this. On UFO Twitter, one of my friends, Ryan, they call him UFO Jesus from Post Disclosure World. He said something the other day just saying like ufology should, bring us together, not divide us, this common interest. So my kind of suggestion to people is, look, this is exciting, and it's exciting for a reason. And it's because so many people have experiences, and it's such a part of human culture, UFOs, that we can relate to it, but we have to feel kind of like accepted about it, right or wrong. We should be able to talk to one another with differences of opinions, should bond us for great conversation. Be weary of people that define themselves, their identities as skeptics, because you already know right there that they're not skeptical, that they've defined themselves to find the prosaic, and that's dangerous. It's really dangerous for everybody. So be, and also be, if people change their minds, be embracing of people making mistakes and changing their minds. Even the debunkers, you know what I mean? It's like, just like, don't be a dick is a great rule. Now for me, it's the best rule, man. So for me, I think the next thing is that I'm trying to, as accurately as I can, report what I believe to know in the moment, right now, and to release to the world video evidence filmed by our military, which I have a lot of, and I need to make sure it's safe to do that on every level and doesn't harm anything. And it's not everything. It's just they're actual just pieces to the puzzle. Some of it is very impressive, and some of it you need an education to understand how impressive it is. But I wouldn't release something boring. It's just a matter of education. So you can look out for me to hopefully be translating, if I do my job well, the basics of what's going on with this topic, because I'm an enthusiast of this topic. I'm an investigator of this topic. I'm a filmmaker. But most importantly, man, I'm just a guy who's been unqualified and feel like I shouldn't be in the room when I'm in the room a lot of time, but I'm grateful to be there, and people talk to me, and I hope I continue to do work that is embraced and that people enjoy it and they're entertained by it, and more importantly, that it changes the way that they engage the world around them, from their family to their jobs. That there's something, that this passion for this, that it changes the way that they perceive those mundane moments in our lives, where instead of being like, shit, I don't want to do that, you kill that inner bitch and you're like, you know what? I'm going to fucking do it, because life is fucking short and we don't have that much time. And we are going to be defined in our lifetime, not in our death, by what we do today. And so that's kind of my advice. So, look, I drop everything on my Instagram and then my Twitter, and it's very easy to find me. I'm so easy to find, but that's where you'll see new releases first. So go follow at jeremycorbell.com, and you'll see it there. And just please say nice things that are constructive, because I don't read much of it. But if people say bad things, I just delete it and go away and block it, and that's it. I just want, not arguments. I want arguments. Be kind to each other. I mean, in the comments, just be, when you talk, you'll learn a lot more if you're kind. So I don't know what my end message is, but weaponize your goddamn motherfucking curiosity, and don't get me fucking wrong. I'm serious about that. Participate. Don't be a passive consumer. Be an active participant in the mysteries you want solved.
And if you're a fan of long-form documentaries, definitely go to extraordinarybeliefs.com. You should see like some of the stuff that Jeremy has on there. The Skinwalker Ranch one, I think we talked about previously. Fascinating stuff. And the Bob Lazar documentary made. Just great stuff if you're curious about any of these topics.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. It's an absolute pleasure. Again, extraordinarybeliefs.com. You can find the Instagram. You can find the Twitter. Stay tuned.